Welcome to episode 218 of the XS Noize Podcast, your destination for in-depth conversations with musicians, artists, and key figures in the music industry. I'm your host, Mark Millar. Thanks for tuning in. In this episode, I sit down with Coxon and Elinor Dougall from the Waeve. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Dave Penn from We Are Bodies. So check it out. And if you like the podcast and would like to support it, help us out by following for free on your favourite streaming platform, give us a rating, and leave a comment. The Waeve, Coxon and Elinor Dougall craft a unique sonic identity, blending cinematic British folk rock, post-punk, and freeform songwriting. Their music navigates themes of oblivion and surrender while embracing hope and defiance in an uncertain world. Following their acclaimed self-titled debut in 2023 and their second album, City Lights, the duo return with Eternal, a new 3-track EP. As they gear up for their UK headline tour, kicking off on the 16th of March in Glasgow, the Waeve continues to establish themselves as a songwriting force to watch. In this episode, Graham and Rose discuss their musical journey, creative process, the new EP, live shows, and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Coxon and Elinor Dougall of the Waeve. So hi Graham, hi Rose, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
It's great to have you on. How's things been treating you? How's life?
Yeah, not bad. Just getting ready to go on tour next week. So, yeah, no, all good, really.
Yeah, we're just having a cup of tea. We're quite mellow, I think.
Well, let's get into it. Before forming the Waeve, you both had distinct solo careers. Graham, you had released multiple solo albums, and Rose with your own highly regarded work. What was the spark that made you think we need to make music together?
Gosh, it was sort of Rose's idea. It was so many things. It was a convergence of both of our situations. I suppose I'll speak for myself, professionally and personally, perhaps, right at the tail end of COVID in 2020. About a certain amount of despondency I sort of felt after that amount of time within COVID. Maybe a little bit of despondency about generally about in life and music, the industry, etc., etc. But when we did that show together, we were both on the same bill at a charity show in the Jazz Cafe in December 2020. We got chatting, and it seemed like such a great way of maybe getting into doing some work, but not with my boring old self again. Sort of solo stuff, but with somebody that might be really interesting to work with, somebody who I'd known of, I'd met a couple of times before. And I thought, well, yeah, if anything's that's definitely worth a go.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I'd obviously been a fan of Graham's since as long as I could remember, really. And I think, like, at the gig we did together, Graham was doing some covers of some of the folk music that I grown up listening to, which has become like a foundation for my understanding of music, really. He was like doing some John Martin and Bert Jansch, and that sort of really spoke to me. And to be honest, I actually just thought that the best I could hope for was that I might get him to play a bit of guitar on one of my songs, because I was thinking about maybe starting the whole process of writing again for another record. But I didn't anticipate that the work we made together would happen so naturally and so quickly. And it became really obvious very early on in the initial sessions that we started working on, that there was something kind of special happening that needed to be pursued and given some proper sort of attention and focus. So the whole thing was just sort of a bit of an accident, really, but a happy one.
Well, having admired each other's music from a distance before collaborating, what's your favourite piece of music from each other's work?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was really into The New Illusion, that album, that one particularly got me. I used to walk around the Highgate Woods listening to that quite a lot. I hadn't heard much of it before because I don't think I really have been. I've been in a peculiar situation where I'd just been working in a totally different sort of life, almost, I suppose. When I came back to London, I started to slowly come out of a kind of a stupor in a lot of ways. But that really struck me, that record. I like the title track a lot. I just liked the cheeky chord sequence, and Christina in Red. I thought there was just something about it that was melancholy but hopeful, and but sort of had this strength, but it was fragile, and it was all of those sorts of things. I love the instrumentation, and weirdly there is saxophone on that album, but it didn't really strike me to immediately suggest we use saxophone in the Waeve. But yeah, I really like. I mean, I love all of that album actually. No illusion, yeah.
I guess that I've always loved Blur, so pretty much all of that. And then A Sky Is Too High was a really important record for me when I was a teenager. I love that record so much. But I mean, most of what Graham's done, I'm always interested in. There's always something exciting going on that you don't expect.
When you decided to make music together, were there elements of each other's past music that shaped the Waeve sound, or did you deliberately want to create something entirely different?
I think, we were really keen to create a space where the pair of us could sort of exist naturally. And so I think it's inevitable that, we've both been making music for a long time. So we have quite sort of strong musical identities, which I think we're always going to be kind of made apparent in the music that we made together. But what I was really happy about was that we quickly sort of started to form like our own sort of identity as a unit, which felt sort of different to anything that either of us had done before. And I think all of those kind of surprises and what made the whole process so much more exciting. That we were both sort of pushing each other out of our comfort zones and exploring different sorts of ideas, like the way, like Graham kind of encouraged me to use my voice in different ways, for example. And I think I encouraged Graham to sort of push his guitar playing to the forefront and not be apologetic about it. And actually the way he sings is kind of a little bit more assertive than maybe has been heard in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think we could all pretty much cover the usual traditional rock band kind of instruments, but I was definitely interested. We got very much more interested in sort of orchestration and sort of woodwind instrument ensembling, and Rose is really into that. Getting string arrangements together, which is such a lot of fun, and but also that she had some background in some more like kind of like drum machine stuff and more synthesizer stuff, which hadn't been really within my music an awful lot. Although I appreciated them, that sort of it was in my own stuff. It didn't seem to really be there, because I suppose I kept quite traditional. I would study for ages on like fingerstyle acoustic guitar playing and stuff like that, and keep things quite traditional, I guess, because that's what people expected of me, especially in soundtrack stuff. They didn't want me to do un-Graham Coxon stuff, because otherwise they would have hired not Graham Coxon, I guess. So those two parts of us coming together, and then because it was those times, very beginnings of 2021, we weren't really supposed to be. I mean, we could be together because we were working, and so really we just had this room and what was in it, really. And there was a saxophone in the cupboard. There was a sort of a Punjabi instrument called an Ezraj, which I think makes an appearance. So it was kind of what was lying around, the percussion I have, the guitars we had, and of course, if you've got MIDI instruments, you can sort of go wherever you really want to go. But I think we've quite quickly got this kind of this sound together, which was a mixture of our voices, obviously, and then the more expanded sort of harmonically kind of kind of wider edition of Rose on the piano, and I wanted Rose obviously to have a lot of space and not overwhelm it with guitars and be a dick, which I never really have been any. But I think we had that real respect for each other, and it was kind of quite gentle. So it was. But very quickly, yeah. I mean, within a couple of weeks, there was stuff that we were making. It wasn't going to be just one song. We got into 3 or 4 songs that were already very exciting for me.
So it didn't take a long time to find your rhythm as a duo, really?
No, not really. It was kind of surprising in that way. Because sometimes these things it's like an awkward sort of process to embark on sometimes. It's like, okay, right, let's write a song together, and you don't really know someone, and you have to kind of become very vulnerable very quickly. But I think somehow we just felt comfortable to do that really early on, which was a real gift.
And do you both get involved in every aspect of the process, or do you naturally take the lead in different areas?
Well, I mean, I just leave the guitars to Graham, obviously, because that's like his whole thing. But besides that, I think, we're pretty much, we're together the whole time that the song's been written, and we both are very present and engaged in each part of what creates the song and the direction that the music's going to take. So it's a very equal partnership in that way.
Yeah.
You're about to release your new EP, Eternal. It marks your return with 3 new tracks. How does Eternal build on the sound and themes, do you think, of your previous albums, The Waeve and City Lights?
Well, it's quite similar. I suppose it's the first record really was a world we created really for ourselves. We didn't, we were sort of not furtive about it, but there was no need to tell anybody really what we were doing, and that may have put pressure on us. So it was really a world we built. So it was kind of like a fantasy world, really, but with this sort of picture consequences sort of lyrics that would be almost daring the other person to respond. I think the second album was a little more of a paranoid, at times kind of more of a paranoid, edgy sort of thing. Whereas I think the EP has still a lot of that edgy, paranoid stuff, and especially "Love Is All Pain" is really about the city and how seductive the city is, and for young people to go there and to then suddenly have experiences that make or break them or destroy them. It's kind of about that. But then there's the song "Eternal," which I thought was more in the sort of sort of mythological, really, sort of coming off of the song "Undine" on the first album, about a kind of an afterlife or just a death that is sort of to do with being under the waves and to do with being taken away by sea spirits, etc., etc. But it sort of expands on it a little bit, so slightly more on the romantic side, and then it's the hope that kills you is some other sort of grinding mechanical monster.
Yes, especially the intro. I love the backward guitars in the intro. It actually reminded me of the Stone Roses.
Right.
Yeah, well, they're not backwards. They relied on it being backwards to make it sound good. I don't really. No,
I've done backwards guitar before plenty of times.
Oh, I know, I love it. We're all love the Beatles. Yeah. Well, that with a jam delay llama pedal, a certain setting, which kind of does something strange and doesn't stick to a particular sort of meter. So it was a real pain to put a song to, but we managed to sort of snip it up and get our head round what this thing was. And yeah, so it was a sort of a jam, I guess, that managed to somehow get bent into a song.
Yeah, it's a brilliant track. I think it's my favorite on the EP.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's mine as well.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a kind of a dark thing. It's a dark old number. But I think a lot as with a lot of Waeve things, there's this sort of optimism, and usually coming from Rose. It's sort of her voice is kind of it's flowers, in this kind of dirge that I created. So that's always nice.
I love how both your voices really complement each other.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that in a way, but sometimes when we sing, it's actually when we sing together, it's sort of can be a little bit hard to distinguish who's singing what, which is quite a nice thing. It's like the tones of our voices sort of blend together in this really sort of symbiotic way. But yeah, no, I'm really pleased that you think that.
Yeah, we both have sort of voices that have a kind of quite a lot of grain. I love it when Rose pushes her voice, and she's on the sort of deeper side of women's voices, really, and I'm on the higher side of men's, so we overlap quite a lot in the middle, so which is quite it's good. So we can sort of sing the same notes quite comfortably normally. Yeah, it's interesting because there isn't a massive difference in our ranges, so we can sound almost the same.
How did James Ford, how did he influence the production of Eternal? Did his approach differ from working on the last album?
No, I mean, we actually recorded the songs on the EP during the same session. So we were making City Lights.
Right.
So they're kind of sort of not off cuts because that makes them sound a bit crap, but just like songs that didn't find a place on the album as a whole. So it was all part of the same period of time. But James has always been such a great person he's such a sort of great foil to the pair of us, and has always approached what we've done because we always deliver quite well developed, sort of well considered demos to him. So they're always kind of quite final pieces of work even before we start really attacking the final production with him, which means that he, there's not always a huge amount of room for him, but he's always just incredibly sensitive and understands that, it wasn't the sort of job where he could just come in and sort of lay his ego all over the whole thing, because we'd already kind of defined the aesthetic of the work quite rigorously beforehand. But he's just such a sensitive musical, he's a brilliant musician himself. So all of his ideas are always rooted in really brilliant musicianship. And we both really have so much respect for him. And he just kind of allows us to be our best versions really in the studio. And it's always just a real laugh. There's no sort of angst or tension ever.
Yeah, he's really encouraging. He did do a little bit of drumming on the first album. And there was at times really when I was drumming on the second one when I was like, is this any good? And he'd always be encouraged, you want to do this bit, it's a bit hard for me. And you'd be like, no, you're doing great. You're a good drummer, Graham. This is how it should be. And although the sort of a lot of the songs sound kind of angsty, it's actually really, really good fun to record. And James is just funny and likes laughing, and obviously loves music, all kinds of music, has a great knowledge of all kinds of music, from electronic to jazz to whatever, all sorts of stuff, classical. And usually when he gets up very quickly from in front of the desk and approaches one of his massive synthesizers and comes up with some idea, it's usually 99 times out of 100 really great. So yeah, he's ace to be there. He's like a sort of a third member of the group, and I'm sure anybody who works with him would say the same thing like that, really.
You recently released Live from the City Lights sessions. Did filming these performances give a new perspective on the songs or reveal anything unexpected about them?
I think whenever we play live, your songs inevitably kind of get a new energy when you're playing them, when you're performing them, to when you've just recorded them in the studio. And I think like we love our band so much. We're so lucky to work with 3 really talented people. And I think we wanted to sort of give a little bit of a showcase to that slightly more urgent quality of the live performances that maybe doesn't kind of communicate in the same way on record. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether it informs anything that I was not expecting. It just is extremely good fun to play with great musicians live who you absolutely trust, So I mean, it just gives you more, me more confidence to push what I'm doing even further. live, because I know that, they're a great sort of safety net. So Rose and I can just be
a bit more
the front
free
people and just, have a great laugh while they're grafting away behind us. Yeah, it's great. And they're all such lovely people to hang out with, and they're all fantastic. I mean, musicians that have all been involved with really good stuff themselves and released really great stuff themselves. So yeah, it's lovely.
You've released 2 albums and an EP in quick succession. It's an impressive output in such a short time. What drives your prolific creativity, and how do you feel? You feel you're in a particularly inspired period right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think I really, really need to work, and I don't really get to work as much as I think I should be. I think sometimes I'm a little bit lazy, and then that drives me a bit nuts. But I did get into with soundtracks and stuff when there were schedules. I did get into that. Muscle was being worked every day, and I really like it because you come up with a lot of stuff, say over a week. If you've got 2 or 3 songs, you've got to get together every day. But you can imagine over the space of a couple of months what the output could be, and I really like, not always good. And I really like that way of working. I do believe that the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I think we've inspired each other quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that still is the case, which is good. I just love it. I love that thing. Like I love drawing, painting, that something is there at the end of a day that wasn't in existence, that morning, that there's something to excite you and something that is, got all the synapses firing in your head, and you've gone into this sort of focus and then created something. It's great if it's especially a good thing that's come about. So I really love that process, and
I think also, like, we just don't ever really know exactly what we're going to make, because we never really plan anything. So there's always that element of surprise and magic about what actually does get produced. And I think also now that we're, sort of established ourselves a little bit, we've kind of got the added incentive of like knowing that there's a bit of a few people out there that actually sort of are really connected to the music that we're making, which I think in a way kind of just gives it another kick up the arse somehow.
Well, there definitely is, because next week, on the 16th of March, the UK tour kicks off. What are you most excited about for these upcoming shows?
I'm excited about getting to that amazing feeling of playing loud with the band, and there's nothing much better than that. And seeing those faces that have now become familiar to us in the audience, and saying, "Watch out, how you doing?" And people that have sort of become almost like kind of like super fans. That'll be nice to see them a lot again. Yeah, get out of the house.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a holiday from our toddler as well. Which is nice.
Put some groovy shoes on.
Yes. Get out of my horrible old jeans.
With 2 albums and an EP now, so how do you balance the set list? Are there any deep cuts or unexpected reworks in store for fans?
I think we're going to try and do a kind of good cross section of both records. So some songs that we haven't played live for a while. And obviously we've got this EP to tackle as well. So yeah, there should be some sort of new elements to the whole show.
Yeah, I think hopefully slightly longer set than we did. A lot of festivals, and these sets were quite short. But we've definitely got enough songs now to be able to pick and choose a little bit. But there's a couple that maybe we didn't take out last year a little bit that we might revisit. But
we haven't quite worked it out yet.
Yeah. But we'll do a couple from this new EP, definitely.
If you could pick one song from your solo catalogues to reimagine as the Waeve, what would it be?
Oh,
I don't know.
I've got this song All Over Me, which kind of might have been a kind of a good Waeve song in a way. If you're talking about solo stuff, and it's actually an album that I've had sitting around since I recorded A&E, which has never seen a release. I don't know why. never had the time. There's a couple of songs on there that I was almost like, oh my God, we should do that. that song. It was almost like these songs were sitting there waiting for me to meet Rose or something, but I was impatient and recorded them anyway. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a song of mine called Christina in Red, I think has sort of got the same kind of expansiveness that the Waeve can get involved with sometimes. And there's a saxophone on it. But yeah, I don't know. All of that stuff feels like something from a different time, really. So it's kind of hard to imagine it in the new context of the music I'm making now.
Just a couple more questions, guys. I like to ask my guests the following questions.
All right.
For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Oh, God.
Yeah. But they're always going to be, for me, memories of my situation in life. I think I'm kind of a bit of an odd. I like listening to music on my own the most. So that could be anything from All My Cons by The Jam to Kick Inside by Kate Bush, which are things that really inspired me when I was younger in completely different ways. I will always love the Kick Inside by Kate Bush, mainly because it's a sort of a person that she seemed to me from my imagination. And I think harmonic who became real somehow when I was 9 or 10 years old and saw her on Pop of the Pops. But just the whole thing of the string arrangements and the fact that she plays piano and it's kind of harmonically quite complicated, sounds amazing, great guitars on it. To me, I think that I can't really, within the Waeve, I cannot sometimes feel a bit of Kate Bush knocking around somewhere, along with other people, other albums like Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson, which was a formative album for me too. So things like that really are still there with me, are like ghosts in the room whenever I'm sort of playing or doing anything. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the records that you kind of fall in love with as a teenager, young person, seem to have the most sort of lasting impact on your life. So those records for me, like Life Without Buildings, Any Other City, which is a record that me and my 2 girlfriends at school really loved when we were about 15. And I really remember like running away from school during break and like going for a fag in my room and putting that record on really loudly. And it sort of feels really free and has the energy of a teenager that it just really spoke to me at the time. But then there's so many other records that I couldn't really live without. Like there's a lot of Joni Mitchell, which had a huge impact on the way I thought about making music, and a lot of folk music as well. And then a lot of soul music that just immediately makes me just sort of enriches me in a lot of ways. But yes, it's hard to choose, but yeah, that kind of thing.
It is indeed. If you could go back and relive one musical moment from your career so far, what would it be?
Oh, blimey. Me and you.
Yeah, that was obviously not only musical. It turns out.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe that charity gig we did. I wouldn't mind seeing that again through my. I don't know. It was in such a strange place in all ways at that point. Not that it scared me to death, that gig, because we hadn't done anything. I hadn't done anything for months, and then I chose these most ridiculous, Bertie Hanson, John Martin things, which are really hard to play, and so I didn't do myself many favors. So maybe I wouldn't want to revisit that. It's too stressful. Actually, I don't know. Some of our first gigs, I think our first gig at the Lexington, I'd like to.
Yeah, that was good. That was really exciting because nobody had heard anything and knew what to expect. And you could kind of feel the room just kind of taking in what we were making in this really sort of interested way. That was a real kick. We got a real kick out of that, I think.
When we wrote this song, Can I Call You, which was one of the songs that we tackled quite early on. I mean, that was kind of a lovely experience because we were sort of really kind of like laying how I sort of felt really in that present moment out. I mean, what I love about Rose is the sort of fearless sort of honesty that she has, and that's difficult for me to be that way. I can, within songs, perhaps it's not honest. It's not a sort of that sort of honesty of just like saying, heart on sleeve kind of stuff, which in songs can be seen in so many ways. But I think the directness of it was quite brave, and the way that song sort of developed from this slow, beautiful thing that Rose had sung. I mean, one of the moments about that was when she came back one day and said, "Well, I've got something for that first bit."
That's a nice impression.
And then played it, and I was blown away. I was just like, "Oh my God!" I just went weird. It was an incredible thing. That 2-part vocal she did at the beginning, and how it just turns into this sort of angsty mess at the end. And I think when we made that, I really thought, gosh, we're on to something.
But you've built a strong identity as a duo. Where do you see the Waeve's sound headed next?
It's hard to say, really. I think we've never really made any big plans about what we want to do. It's just kind of happened in a really organic way. So I would be loath to sort of pinpoint a direction, particularly at any point, because it's important that we just leave things open for the ideas to develop on their own. So hopefully just to keep on the way we are, and new things will reveal themselves at the right time.
I just love the idea that we can do something that goes into some sort of breezy jazz bit, and then there's something else that sounds almost post-punk industrial, like Bauhaus or something, and then there's some really sort of just psychedelic stuff, or like prog rock stuff, that it's all underneath, or something. This music all seems to be something that we can be really passionate about and really be into. But yeah, the music is what guides us into those areas. Really, I don't think we can ever really force it. So we'll just have to
make some more and find out.
Make some more. But I think what's nice about it is that people, when they first heard, I guess, that we were making music together, really had an idea of what they thought it was going to sound like, and it was nothing like it. So I thought that was kind of I thought they thought we were going to make kind of.
I was one of those people.
Smoky, sort of like smoky, jazzy folk stuff.
But that's what I love about your music. You just don't know what you're going to get, and even within a song, the songs veer off in different directions.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
I love that unexpectedness about that a song is the sound of a song as it's finishing. There's nothing like how that song started. I like that.
Well, Rose, Graham, thank you very, very much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.